Go ahead and let's all of us stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Pat, will you do the roll call, please?
Helen Anderson.
Here.
Scott Hardeman.
Here.
Bruce Horn.
Here.
Monica Hassel.
Here.
Mary Kay Jacobson.
Here.
Greg Jones.
Here.
Barbara Starr. Mr. Chairman, we have 6 board members present, therefore we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to approve the prior board meeting minutes from February 27th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I know that that Mayor Foster is not here, but Joe Sherrill and Colleen Mull are here. Do you guys have anything you want to say?
Good morning, Joe Sherrill, 6th District Commissioner. Colin and I work together with Alan. I just wanted to pass on that a couple of things that are happening in this area. That Colin and I are working well with Stanley right now on Stanley Hall, and we came over and met with your road crew here. Well, Colin wasn't there, but just last week to kind of start the process here of getting roads in order. So the subcommittee that we put out through the commission, Stanley's been very good working with us, and we're making some real progress. So you should start seeing some moves there. Also, I'll add that the Flat Rock development has gotten approval for all of the current submissions that they've had through the regional planning. So that was a good thing. I'm very glad to see that moving, and I'm looking forward to it. And that's all.
Nico Sergio. I think we should honor our county commissioners in the future and put them list them on the agenda underneath the mayor. Thank you.
Colleen, anything? Okay. All right. With that, we'll go to the across the board. Thanks to all who helped keep us safe. We have been reminded over the last couple of weeks of how quickly nature can impact our community. We experienced both the potential for the rapid spread of wildfires and the destructive power of wind and water on our community. We are very thankful for the professional, quick, coordinated responses of our fire and police departments. There is no doubt in my mind that had the responses not been what they were, we could have been dealing with a far different outcome within our community. In addition to our police and fire departments, there were others that responded to the high wind event. Wastewater treatment employees came in to monitor the system to make sure it remained operational and called a crew in early Sunday morning to work throughout the night, keeping our wastewater system operational. They continued to work throughout Sunday, assessing the damage done and doing what they could to clear downed trees. And that sounds like a trivial thing, but as Bruce would tell you, it wasn't. And thank goodness that Bruce, with your leadership and that crew, those crews, you came in and kept this community going. So thank you very much. Golf grounds staff came in early Sunday morning and assessed the tree damage on all of our courses and started the process of cleaning trees and debris. And maintenance teams started clearing trees where they impeded travel and posed danger to our residents. Again, these sound like small things. They're not. And thank goodness, Jeff, and to Bruce again, thanks for your people coming in early and assessing the damage and getting to work on it really right away. We really had no real closures because of the response that we got from people. So thank you guys very much. We also want to thank VEC, our electric provider, for their team's quick response in restoring power to our community. We want to recognize and thank all of these employees and organizations that have gone above and beyond their normal responsibilities and helped us continue to operate Fairfield Glade safely. I have one last request of all of our residents. Please go to the member site and make sure you are signed up to receive club announcements. These announcements are the way to get you information on important happenings in Fairfield Glade, and during weather events, it is how we communicate to you any watches and warnings we receive from the National Weather Service. So please sign up if you haven't. March saw the close of the books in preparation for our yearly financial audit. The audit process will begin the first week in April with anticipated final 2024 audited financial report to be available to the membership by the second or third week of May. And as 2024 was a milestone year for Fairfield Glade Community Club with our 10-year capital spending plan, the start of major capital projects, and the continuation of positive growth along with a positive budget closing, we look forward to the final results of this year's audit. Please send any questions to the treasurer at fairfieldglade.cc. The senior management team, along with the members of the Strategic Planning Committee, 3 board members, and Bill Ward, participated in our strategic planning workshop on March 10th and 11th. Drafts of the workshop recommendation and supporting material are being reviewed for submission to the entire board for review. Plans are to present the roadmap at the April board meeting. Members who would like to share comments regarding the strategic planning initiative can reach out by sending email messages to the team at strategicplanning@fairfieldglade.cc. Information concerning the strategic planning team is also available on the community website at www.fairfieldglade.cc. We hosted a meeting on March 18th with the Tennessee PGA and the Tennessee Golf Association to start the planning for these 2 events. The Senior Open will be held June 10th and 11th, and the Women's Open Championship will be here on July 24th through 26th. Both tournaments will be played on Stonehenge Golf Course. We are looking forward to even better events this year with more opportunities to interact with the participants, increased volunteer opportunities, more food and beverage offerings, and the potential for more prizes for attendees. Get these popular events on your calendar and stay tuned as we share more information with the community. The construction of Druid Hills Clubhouse should begin sometime in April or early May. We ask that you remember that the area is a construction site, and as such, you will be required to keep minimum distances away from for safety reasons. We will also have an updated status of the Druid Hills project at the next board meeting. Members who would like to share additional comments regarding the Druid Hills Golf Club project can do so by sending an email to the steering committee at druidhillsprojects@fairfieldglade.cc. The site soil tests have been completed and initiatives have been distributed for the Firehouse No. 1 and Emergency Management Services building. The project management team is working with the advisory committee on an inventory of equipment, owner responsible requirements, and budget clarity. Food and beverage news. The Food and Beverage Department is offering various programming for April. Stonehenge Grill will continue with the free live entertainments twice a month at the grill. Dates for April are DJ Garrison on Tuesday, April 8th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and Keith Robinson Tuesday, April 22nd from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, April 20th will be Easter brunch buffet at the center from 10 to 2. Reservations are required for that event. Many events are scheduled for the upcoming season, including Mother's Day, fish fries, trivia nights, and more. More detailed information, including dates, times, menus, and pricing, will be provided by the end of April. That is the March update from across the board. I'm going to make one other comment. In a little bit, we're going to start going through some responses and discussion around a couple policies that we're bringing forward. And I want people to understand comments are just exactly that. It doesn't mean that your comment isn't valid. It doesn't mean that it's not important. All the comments get reviewed. But it doesn't necessarily mean because you made a comment that that comment's going to get into the policy. So I want to just make sure everyone understands that, because there's some confusion sometimes. People think that just because they made a comment, it ought to be in the policy. The board reviews all the comments, and we take into account the ones that we think are necessary for the policy to move forward. So that's just a little reminder. Okay, financials.
Good morning. Financials through February 28th. For the POA and amenities, our overall revenue was behind budget by $12K. The assessment revenue was slightly higher, but our amenity revenue fell by approximately $41,000. Food and beverage made up 60% of the shortfall, $25,000 of that, and golf was in line with estimates for February of this year. Costs of goods sold for February were slightly better than budget, with a variance of plus $2,000 for food and beverage. It was anticipated that cost of goods would be approximately $91K for the month, and actual cost of goods came in at $89K. Golf cost of goods were higher than budget by $4K. Operating expenses, including payroll, were we had considerable savings in the general expenses this last month to include payroll. Expenses for the year were $33 million against an estimate of $3.5 million. Repairs and maintenance were well below budget by $250K, which we think is also explained by timing of invoices and workflow. We did have weather. Overall, we are below budget guidelines by $457,000 for the year to date of February. Our net income for POA and amenities were ahead of schedule by $451,000. We continue to monitor our spending, payroll, and revenue generation against budgeted expectations. So far, we are in line with top-line revenue and well ahead of the budget for expenses. Wastewater treatment and plant and sewer. Overall revenue, top-line revenue for sewer came in below guidelines by approximately $22K. The biggest variance was in residential sewer fees, which was $8K off for the month. Operating expenses, including payroll. Large variances were experienced positively in payroll, materials, and repair. Total in this area of general $2K for February of 2025. Our net income for sewer was better than budgeted expectations. For 2025 February actuals, sewer reported $94K against a budget of $64K. I'm going to turn it over to Jason Lambert now for some additional comments to put some things into context for us and highlight some things. Jason.
Thanks, Bruce. So this is the second month that we've had a change in the financial reporting. We just wanted to make our reporting standards more uniform across all divisions. And we have made our income statement, for instance, is now a divisional income statement, and we don't provide context for the individual departments. What I mean by that is food and beverage, for instance, as an example, Stonehenge was one of the departments that was really focused on the previous income statements. We've now taken that, because there are quite a few different departments in the food and beverage, rolled it into a division, which rolls into our POA and amenities and also sewer, two breakouts. We wanted to provide the focus back to the divisions, whereas, for instance, food and beverage makes up 8% of our top line revenue, golf 7%. Our dues and assessments make up 68% of our top line revenue, and so we wanted to provide focus back to the organization as a whole instead of individual departments. That was one of the reasons for the changes in the income statement. Also, in the changes to the balance sheet, we wanted to make that more of a GAAP-oriented, uniform, so when the audit comes out, there can be some comparison as the way we report and the way that the auditors, or Culture and Justice in this case, report on their financials. and that was one of the main reasons and drivers for the change. Thank you.
I would really like to thank both Jason and Bill for the work you've done on the reporting. I think as you sit out there and look at it, it's a lot clearer and a lot easier to read and understand where we are from a financial condition. And I really appreciate the hard work that staff did in terms of bringing these new reports forward. So thank you.
Well, I also want to recognize the members of the FAC because they were integral in providing their recommendations and feedback as well, and have signed off on this reporting as well as the Financial Advisory Committee.
Okay. You have a question, Tom, or no? Okay? Okay. All right. Then we'll get into the general manager's report. Bill?
Thank you. I want to echo Greg's comments and everyone's recognition of the staff that over not only in the recent high winds and storms that we had over the weekend, but throughout the winter, difficult times, really year-round, whenever bad weather arises. Of course, the response we get from our community maintenance, golf maintenance, wastewater, the police department, the fire department, all of these servants provide a great service and come in at wee hours of the night to address the needs of the community. So I want to say what a privilege it is to work with all of you, and I thank you for your service to the community. A number of my items were covered in the across the board and also are being addressed later in today's agenda, so I won't jump ahead or repeat any of that, but a couple things just to recognize. The golf garage operation that has now been open and for the last couple of months is just, it's a home run. It's really just been a great addition to our amenities and our golf operation. The support, the budget numbers they're through the roof in the first 2 months when we've had closings on the golf course. The availability times to go in and hit from the bays and on the TrackMan. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't had a chance, check it out. But those hours were booked up, so it's really been great. Kudos to Adam and Jeff and the entire golf team, golf staff for their insights into developing that and the operation of it so far. It's been great. We look forward to a great year. Wanted to share also a little update on the, well, actually we'll be talking some about the fire station later, so I'll yield on that. But good news on that front to share as well. Been working on succession planning throughout our department. I want to recognize Candace, our HR director, and the great work she's been doing in that regard, as well as in other areas of our HR reporting and policies and so forth. He's really done a great job updating all of that, but the succession plan was really needed, and we have a training program in place and are recognizing key employees within the organization that have the skills and the interest and to advance within the operation, and so we are putting together a really great program to help that with that training and the development so that we can provide opportunity for growth within the organization. The bocce courts are complete. We will be 1st of April, mid-April, the bocce club will be kicking off with some of their club events, but we'll be having a formal grand opening of the bocce courts in May, so there'll be more of that to come. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a day down there. Mary Jo and her team have really put together some fun ideas, so look forward to that and bringing that new amenity online. And with that, I think that covers about most of the highlights. As I said, there's several important things relative to Druid and other projects that are underway that we'll be updating and sharing with you later on. Thank you.
Okay. Old business. MK.
Okay, I'm addressing the lot policies that have been posted since the last board meeting. The first one being the veteran lot refund policy. We received 19 comments, and due to the volume of comments, the board decided to delay making any motion on that policy for 30 to 60 days. We will be posting some FAQs on the website that may answer some of the questions that people had in their comments, and I would ask you to please read the FAQs, and if you still want to submit comment, please use the form that's on the policy review page. With the voluntary lot transfer policy, we received 6 comments. None of them materially impacted the board's decision as far as adopting the policy. And again, I want to remind people that the only thing that we are voting on are those changes that were highlighted in yellow on the policy as it was posted. Therefore, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the proposed changes to the voluntary lot transfer policy.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
Any further discussion?
Nico Sergio. We currently have 1,715 lots that we've filed liens on. I'm assuming all of those are for non-payment of the POA fee. Most of these people, I'm making an assumption that they own the lots, they paid the dues for 5 years or more, and we've collected something in the range of like $3,000 over the time frame that these people owned the lot. And now whatever happened, I don't think we need to come across and say, hey, if you have a hardship, we understand that, you have to fill in this form. What I think our policy would be better is we offer these 1,715 people plus probably another 100 that are current, a $50 gift certificate to either a restaurant or a store of their choice, and ask them to fill in the paperwork to get clear title. If we don't get clear title, as it was reported in this policy, it can cost us $100 a year. I think we ought to thank the people that paid dues for several years for their contribution and appreciate the fact that they did this. And now let's treat them respectfully, offer them a $50 gift certificate, and let's get title. And it also stated in the policy that if it's either the community club or the county that ends up taking legal action against these property owners. And I don't know what that costs, but it's got to be a couple $100. Let's keep this clean, respect the people that gave us money, give them a small gift, and get clean title, and then we can move on. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, policy has been changed. I have a statement to read for the stables. The Board of Directors was not presented with a strong enough business case that showed the stables to be a long-term viable operation for the community. Therefore, after thoughtful consideration, the Board reaffirms our decision to keep the stables closed. Okay. Major capital projects.
So at our last board meeting, a question came up about the major capital projects, which we allowed that committee charter to expire at the end of the year, and we didn't renew. I said we would go back as a board and review the comments, and we did. We had a long, good conversation, and I want to emphasize that the community has received tremendous value from major capital projects. We have a lot of expertise and experience in a lot of different disciplines in this community, and that's what we look for, and that's what we want to build upon. And major people that participate in major capital projects with their construction, engineering background, they did a lot of great things, and we thank them. And there's a lot of business practices that they brought to the table that we absolutely do not want to lose. We want to carry those forward. A comment was made about those that forget history are destined to repeat it, and I've heard that statement, and it's true. But the intent is not to forget history. Also, as an organization, we have to continually look for opportunities that improve. And we formed the project management team within our staff to carry forward the good work of the major capital projects team. And as we go forward, and you'll see it as I get into our conversation about our steering committee regarding the Racket Center expansion, we absolutely want members that have that experience and desire to contribute that experience and knowledge to our committees, whether it's an ad hoc committee or standing committee. We want them to volunteer and be a part of that and serve as an advisory role to assist us in a number of different ways. And we're going to continue that practice, and you'll see it in our committee structure with the Racket Center expansion. So we appreciate everything that's been done with major capital projects, and there's several members that are still contributing on our construction projects, and we want to continue to leverage that knowledge and experience and ideas as we go forward. Being able to add our project management team and take the next step in terms of being effective at our project and construction management to ensure our projects are managed on time, within our budget, and deliver a quality product. So we will continue with our ad hoc steering committee and continue with getting expertise from the community involved in that manner. So.
Okay.
I guess I'm still up, or no, you?
I'm sorry? Strategic planning workshop.
Go on ahead, Scott.
Okay. Next up is the strategic planning workshop. I want to give you an update on what transpired. So as Greg mentioned, across the board, we held a workshop on March 10th and 11th. Monica and I and Mary Kay attended from the board. All the senior management team, Bill Ward, all the strategic planning team was there. It had been a long time since I'd been through a two-day workshop. You know, I retired in 2018. Those are draining, and one of the things I want to do is thank the senior management team and the strategic planning team, because that is a tremendous amount of time and commitment. And what I will say about our senior management team, that 2 days, I knew it, but it reaffirmed we have a talented group out there, and sometimes I don't think we recognize the hard work and the talent that we've been able to assemble as a senior management team. But spending those 2 days and getting their thoughts and input and ideas into what we need to do to continually improve as an organization was fantastic. So I want to thank them for their time. So what we came up with, we went into that. We wanted to get the senior management team's input. We wanted to identify some of the key initiatives, start getting people assigned to them, get them in a roadmap form so that we can show you that we got somebody assigned, when we're going to do it, and we're going to attack. So we've got to start at that. We've got a couple of different versions of the roadmap. Yesterday, we spent a considerable amount of time as the board talking about the governance piece in particular. When we had the PCA strategic planning survey that we incorporated into ours, there was a lot of feedback in there about governance. And there's been things that have been going on. One of them, establish a responsibility matrix. Make sure that we're clear on board responsibilities and team responsibilities. And we have that. We just haven't communicated it yet. And we got to get better at practicing that and making sure that we reference, hey, that's a board responsibility, that's an operation. So things have been done. Another example in the strategic plan was succession planning. As Bill mentioned, Candace has been driving that. And it's not necessarily an initiative, but it's an ongoing business practice that has been incorporated in developing. But there's also those big initiatives. And we haven't finalized the priorities on all these. We're starting to get, but one in particular that continues to pop up is a community master plan. We've talked about it for quite a bit, so we talked quite a bit yesterday. We got to get going on that. And when I say a community master plan, you look through our strategic plan, there's a lot of things in there. I want more space to walk, or I want We need more meeting space and more rooms, facility planning. As we grow as a community, our admin space availability.
And our admin space is not a great first impression.
Right, and it's
People
not a
coming
great.
in, and
So
several of you
we
noted
talk a
that.
lot about things, but we want to get those requirements into that community master plan, and we need to get going on that. And we talked about that yesterday. That's one of the big things you'll see in the roadmap that we talked about, getting that started. What are we going to do as we develop? What are we going to do with common space? What do we need for parks? There's been a number of things over the years about a town hall central or with Robin Hood Park. As we grow, we need to know what those things are, what the community needs, and you provided some feedback, but we want to get that community master plan group going and get that developed. And that can guide some of our future decisions as we talk about capital expenditures, that we have that plan and that vision of where we're going with the community development. So we're continuing to work on refining the roadmap, descriptions behind it, the initiatives, timing, who's responsible. We have an excellent start. And again, I want to thank the senior management team and the strategic planning committee for all the work they did that 2 days. So Monica, you have anything to add on that?
No, just add that probably a large portion of our time was spent on governance, because the original thing that the strategic planning team presented wasn't heavily focused on that. And one thing that PCA told us is that you got to get the governance right or you can't get the rest of it. And so we did that, and actually this is the governance matrix, which is a lot. And we got to get it down to something that we can all look at and reference, but we do believe that that's the right thing to do. And we did go through each of the items from PCA and incorporated them in the strategic plan. So modified the strategic plan slightly to include all of those things and prioritize. And we're still at the prioritization thing, because there are a few people that are actively involved in numerous items. And we did get names on the sheet for each person responsible. That doesn't mean that the rest of us aren't responsible, but it means that there's a key person that we're going to be looking forward to presenting on a monthly basis, not every item, but some items at every board meeting.
No. Okay.
Tim, come on up here. I'll move away.
Thank you. Ted Landers. Just one question. This is great. I'm glad you guys are doing this, and I'm all in favor of it. When do you anticipate that it'd be available for us to be able to take a look at, like online or something?
We're looking to be able to present something at the next board meeting. Now, keep in mind, when you think about plans, we're gonna present something at the April board meeting with Phil. Phil and I talked about this morning. Phil Riley's in front row. He's a strategic planning chair. But there's a lot of stuff there. And in strategic plan, we think about 5 to 10 years, and you think long term. But there's a lot of stuff that are short term that we need to also think about.
To get right.
Right, and to Monica's point with governance, and she mentioned a couple items. We talked a lot yesterday too about communication plan. You've seen the new website. Bill and his team is done, I think, a tremendous job of making that step. But we want to continue to evaluate. Are we communicating properly across the board, e-blast, all that type of thing? Are you effectively getting the information you need? And that's part of what we want to get on that plan that is nearer term, that leads to some of the longer term things. There are big items we need to look at some point in time as we grow, right? We always got to keep in mindset there's big expenditures. Our sewer system, Bruce has got got a 10-year plan for that. But as we grow, we got to keep refreshing that and making sure that we're staying out in front, because that's a big investment that we have to be aware of. So there's a lot of things in that category that are out.
If I may also speak as GM, I mean, with the input from the SMTs at the workshop and their experience and knowledge from many of them that have been here for many years, but is to, as we go forward and as this all framework gets in place and these action plans and these priorities are established, it becomes it starts to feed the direction of the SMTs. They're getting clear indications from the board as to what the priorities are in each given fiscal year as they relate operationally and long-term to the strategic plan. So now the budgeting process, the things that we prioritize in the budget are tied to the strategic plan so that the SMTs are owning and working in lockstep with the board and with the strategic planning committee on those items that that are available and ready for action over the next 3 years. Then ideally, 3 to 5 years, 10 years out, the strategic planning committee is then effectively filling the role that they should be and not looking at immediate. So the strategic plan starts to kind of, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. It starts to feed down into each fiscal year, and we're addressing that in each of the budgets, but also in the performance of the departments and the department heads, the senior management team. And so everyone from a staff standpoint on down becomes connected to the overall goals and the overall picture of the organization as a whole, which is important. And that's what employees want to be a part of. They want to know how their responsibilities and their role ties to the bigger picture. And from a recruitment and retention standpoint, a counseling and coaching development standpoint, all of that is really important when you can connect those dots into a coherent overall picture and strategy for the organization. So I just wanted to share that because this is really a great step and the right step that we're taking to get things better organized.
Tom?
Tom Ratcliffe. I want to thank Scott, you and Monica for the explanations here. It's very helpful, and I think looking forward, at least from my perspective, I'm looking forward to that carrying on. My ask next month would be if you could really try to help us by putting together a big timeline or a general timeline on all of this.
Yeah.
And I only emphasize it because you know this has been going on. Shoot, PCA is what, 2 years, 2.5 years? I don't know, but it seems like forever.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And that's what we're shooting for, Tom. This one's broken down by 5 years and then beyond 5 years. We're trying to get down the nearer terms, 1 to 3 years on a quarterly basis, and with somebody assigned responsible to get it going. When you get into long-term plans, if you get much finer than that, it's just a shot in the dark, right? So we want that at least be able to paint the general picture of where our focus is going to be. And to Bill's point, on an annual basis, planning is an ongoing process, right? So we're going to get new information continually. Strategic planning is going to continue to research and look. The senior management team, your feedback is all going to feed into the annual process. We review it, and it feeds into our long-term planning update, feeds into the annual process. And so getting that process in sync and being able to articulate it accurately to you guys as well as what we're thinking we're going as a community is very important. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm Holly Billhauer. I'm not a very eloquent speaker, and I'm very nervous, but I'm also extremely upset about the Wildwood Staple being on the docket at this point. I had sent an email to the Strategic Planning Committee after last month's workshop and asked if Wildwood Stables was on the strategic plan anywhere. I never got an answer, so I still wonder, was Wildwood part of the strategic plan? And if not, why not? And you talk about parks and walkways and other nature-related things, the hiking trails. I don't understand why Wildwood is not considered, at least in maybe a long-term master plan. For now, okay, it's not viable possibly, but also the financials that were given, and the vote was no by everybody was because of financials. Those were so outrageously high. I just don't understand too why those haven't been looked at. Like the committee had come up with a far less number, and the stables could, in a few years, be an amenity that made money. And I've had several people ask me, because I had a horse there, what's going on with the stables? And I'm like, I don't know. And you won't believe the impact. There are so many people that enjoyed the stables. Their parents are like our kids and our grandchildren, people from the Crossville. It was a very much loved and used amenity. And now that Fall Creek Falls is closed, where's Wyndham going to send their people that want to go horseback riding?
Yeah, I'll answer from a strategic planning standpoint. I don't know about the email. I'll have to follow up on that. But with everything in a strategic plan, we need to consider all types of amenities, and stables would be one of the things we consider as we do the research, what's becoming popular and what is the interest of the community. Those things need to be considered. So stables is something that needs to be continued to research, and I'm sure the strategic planning team will consider that as we look at all types of amenities that the community is interested in having. So, yes.
I'll pick up a little bit on the most recent stuff. We did talk to, really, if you go back in time, probably 4 people that showed an interest in terms of running the stables. We got down really to 3, and then we got down to 2. And the actual business plans that were presented, in one case, we never got a business plan. Person basically said, just trust me. That's not a plan. The other person did give us a plan, but even in discussions with both groups, there was going to be considerable capital infusions that the people wanted or felt they needed in order for that to move forward. And that really caused us to look at, well, is this a viable plan for right now? And that's what we really made the decision on. You notice in the statement, it didn't say we'll never consider it. And to Scott's point, that's exactly what he's doing with the strategic plan, and Monica is as well, is really looking at the long term of all amenities. So where we are right now is we don't have a viable plan that we felt we could go forward with that would be good for the overall community. And that's why we made the statement that we did. Okay? All right? I'm sorry. Please come up here so that we've got people on streaming and they got to be able to hear you too.
I understand that it's not in the budget for this year or next year, or even maybe the following year. And so there is not money to give to getting the stables back up to where they should be. It's frustrating that all the money that your tenant put into the stables over the 16 years, not any went back into keeping that property up and viable. I guess I just hope and pray that down the road it can be considered and budgeted for.
I understand.
Okay.
Small points, but I'm passionate about this.
Okay.
You heard Holly mention the email. No response. I understand you're going to follow up. You've heard me bring it up before. There has to be a mechanism in this club. You go through, whether it's across the board, policies and so forth, and send responses to blah, 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 blah. And nothing happens. There has to be a gatekeeper.
I hear
on
Tom.
this.
I'll follow up on that. I don't know why that one didn't get followed up on. I'll check it.
And adding to that, we discussed pretty thoroughly with the strategic planning group as we were doing our master plan, and again yesterday afternoon, about which communication should come from whom. And that's part of the problem. Like you mentioned across the board, we were like, Greg, some of those things probably in our new matrix will go to Bill to update the community on, because they are management, not strategic. And so we are looking at all those kinds. I think there were 31 and 33 pieces of communication out to all of you each month, so of the last 2 months. So that's a lot of things, and that's where we got a little bogged down with the number of pieces that we have to respond to. And that is only those pieces of communication, not anything else that comes in. So we do need to look at that. We started looking at it yesterday, and I think we were all just out of energy to keep doing it through dinner or anything. Thanks.
Phil?
A couple of comments that I would make. I'm Phil Riley. I'm the chairman of the Strategic Planning Committee, and I will take the hit for not responding to your email. We solicited comments. We've got probably 15 or 16 when we were about to present, had put a draft out, and then we presented to the community. And as far as I know, we didn't solicit anything after that. So I'll take the responsibility. I have to log on to that and go look. And I just haven't done that in the last few weeks because as far as I knew, nobody was being solicited. The other thing I will say is, yes, we looked at stables and many other things when we crafted the strategic plan. We took most of our central guidance from the community survey. There were 89 people that said that the stables were important to them. When we listed, I think, 20 amenities, stables was the 17th most popular. And so we took particular aim at golf, food and beverage, pickleball, those that rose to the top 5. And we really didn't make mention of the others other than if we have amenities, we think, pick a golf course, let's say Stonehenge. That's the standard of quality that we want all of our amenities to be at. And I think that's one of the things that maybe didn't pass the test with the stables. And in order to bring that up, it's going to take some capital.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Come up here, please.
Get up there.
Come up here, please. People can't, or repeat his question. Yeah. That's all right.
The question was, what percentage of the people participated in the survey? I think we had somewhere around 3,000 responses out of a population of 9,000 residents, 12,000 properties. Statistically, what that means is that we can have confidence in the results plus or minus about 2 or 3 percentage points. So when I say 89%, it may have been actual 85, might have been 92, but it's very close to that ballpark. The high response that we get validates the result statistically.
Thank you, Bill.
If we're going to
Okay.
talk about the stables, let's leave that to the end, okay? Okay, come on up, Tom.
Let's finish the survey. The question was, how did
Talk in the
they get
microphone,
surveyed?
please, Monica. Monica?
The question was, how did people get the survey?
To those that we had email addresses on, they got.
Right. Yeah.
The survey you're talking about was not done recently. It was what?
2 years ago.
2023. So it was done then, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so Greg, my name is Polly, and I can address this just to you because you're the head of the board. So last month, I said to you that the figures that the committee came up with were about 20% of what you were presented with, and we know that what you were presented with was false. So, and I asked you if you all would take another look based on actual figures. And so I guess I just want to know if you really did that, or if it would even make a difference if you did, because seriously, I realize that you all want to make the stables up to the standard of Fairfield Glade, but we are talking about stables. It needs to look rustic. It doesn't need to be a premier riding facility that none of us that were there could even afford to board our horses at. This is a rustic community. We're out in the woods, we're in the country, and it doesn't need to be a premier riding facility. That's not the style of what anybody would want here. It wouldn't fit in here. So, again, I just ask you, did you all even consider that? Okay, thank you.
When we looked at the stables this time, we looked at not us taking it over and running it. We looked at people like John Cannon did, running it on our behalf, okay? And those are the people that we talked to. And that's where we got the numbers, because they were going to have to live with the operation of it, of whatever was agreed to between the club and them, okay? So we didn't look at our figures. We looked at what these people were presenting to us, what they thought they needed, the investment needed to be for them to take it over. So it's a different look, all right? So the numbers that we had, you know, we did not get that into that with them. So, and when that came back, there was still a sizable capital infusion that those people, if they were going to run the stable, said that you're going to have to make that investment in order for us to run it, okay? And that's where we are. So the business plans that we got were just not viable at this time. Now, again, as Scott said, and I will say, we'll continue to look at it. I mean, we didn't just stop when we announced in December of or October, whatever it was, when we said we're not going to keep it open. We continue to look at all amenities and take a look at whether or not they're viable in our community and what it's going to take to run them and what it's going to take in terms of investment to make them go. So that's where we are with the 3 people that well, actually it was 4. One dropped out early in the game. But that's where we are with the 3 people that we talked to, okay? All right. Let's see if I can make the magic happen, John. We came to you in December talking about in an agreement that we signed in December with the Declarant to help us get rid of a lot of inventory and jumpstart development, inventory of lots and jumpstart development down, especially south of Peavine. And as we get into it, there are several things that need to kind of start falling in place. We're going to talk about 2 of those things today. The first one is we're going to try to get through this today and sign an agreement with the Declarant that will allow the Declarant to buy county lots through our agreement that is with the county. Now, why is that important? I would like to tell you. All right, what am I doing wrong, John?
There it goes. There it goes.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So the purpose of this agreement is, and I'm not going to read this to you, I'm going to kind of give you my commentary on it. You can read it for yourself, and these will be posted, by the way, on the member site. The key thing is there's 4 groups of people that own lots. One is the county. They get lots back when people don't pay their taxes, and they take them over. The second large group is the community club. And those are people that either voluntarily come in, as a policy that we have in now, and voluntarily come in and say, look, I don't want my lot anymore, will you take it over? And if they're all up to date with their dues and they're up to date with other things, then we'll take those over. The third group is Wyndham. And for Wyndham, they have approximately 1,290 lots that they own still and control. And like our lots, the Declarant has gotten into agreement with Wyndham for the sale of their lots to the developer to control those lots so that they can do the development of those. And then, of course, the final group is the privately owned lots themselves. That's probably the largest group, by the way. Most of the lots down there are owned by private individuals. So we can't do anything with those because that's up to the individual owner, what he or she wants to do with those lots. But the other 3 are ones that we can do something about. And in that regard, we took care of the lots that Fairfield Glade Community Club owns with the agreement that we talked about in December. And as I said before, the Declarant has an agreement with Wyndham, and now we're going to try to take care of those that are owned by the county. So let's talk a little bit about how it works. A couple times a year, and it's not on a regular schedule because the county doesn't do it on a regular schedule, we get a number of lots per our agreement that we can buy if we want them, okay? And we get to do that prior to them going up for auction, which was the whole purpose of the agreement, for the club to get an opportunity to buy those before the county invests a whole lot of money in terms of the sale of those lots. So we get that a couple times a year. What the intention of this agreement is that we will give that list to the declarant, and the declarant will decide within 21 days, so we've time framed it. It's not you have all day to do this, and the county won't let us have all day because they wanted to put them up on auction if they're not going to be bought by us. So within 21 days of us getting the list over to the declarant, they will tell us if there's any lots that they wish to buy. Then what we'll do is we'll go back to the county and say, okay, here's the list of lots that we would like to buy, and what are the price of those lots? And the county will give us what the price is. And then we'll go back to the declarant and say, do you still want to buy them? Because now here's what the price is going to be. And if the declarant does want to buy them, then we will go on ahead and purchase those on behalf, well, we'll actually take ownership of them because that's the way the county agreement goes. And then within 45 days of that, taking possession, the declarant will buy those lots from us. Now, there's one little nuance in there, and I want to make sure everyone understands it. Not all lots are buildable. I think you've lived here long enough that you know that if you drive around, there's some lots that you'll look at and there's probably no way that anyone's ever going to build on them, although I keep being told by some people that it's just a matter of how much money you want to invest. Well, that means they're not buildable for me, but at any rate, there's a couple of those that will always fall into the category that the county owns. And when we talked to Mayor Foster about this, he was pretty clear. He said, what I don't want the club to do is to take, and the numbers, there's 883 lots that the county owns that are C lots that are in all of this, okay? So this is the number for the whole campus, not even just the development, but the whole campus. And what he said is, we don't want you to be able to take 2 or 3 lots and stick the county with those. And so what we agreed to do is we would take those 2 or 3 lots along with the ones that the declarant wants, will be a much larger number that the declarant's going to take, and we would continue to own those lots so that the county gets out of that whole section and we take over a couple of lots, but the declarant really gets what the declarant's looking for, which is the majority of those lots so that we can continue to build. So what we did agree with the declarant is that in those cases where we've taken over a lot and it's probably not a buildable lot, a couple things can happen. One is we were going to look at it and see if that's a good place just to keep a green space or that type of thing in that area. Another option is the declarant may work with us in terms of saying, let's merge a couple of these lots so that I can make a larger footprint for a house to go on there, and that type of thing. So there'll be some conversation with the goal of even the lots that we take over because they're not quote-unquote buildable, that the declarant will eventually, or someone will take those over and they'll get off our books as well. The key thing is, of course, is that the reason why we're doing this is because this is a way of generating income for the club. And I'm going to go over some figures with you just so you get a sense of that when I get into the second presentation. So that's what we're trying to do. So for this one, are there any questions? If you got a question, come on up.
So, Greg, I understand the mayor's position on those lots. So is he also then agreeing to waive the taxes, as minor as it might be, since they're unbuildable?
No, he's not, and I don't think he has the authority to do that. But it's really minimal. Right now, those lots are generating about $23 a year is what the cost is. And I understand what you're saying, Tom. We wouldn't like them, but if we take a look at getting 40 or more lots on the books for generating income, $23 for a couple lots is not going to kill us. Okay, so that's the purpose.
Nico Sergio again. Are we going to do the transfers in such a way that the community club doesn't get stuck with the title fees and the title fees would just be paid by LGA, or Tom Anderson and Group?
Right. Good question. No, the intention is that all the fees for closings and that type of thing will be charged to the declarant. Also, and I will go back, maybe. Okay, if you read this, for every lot that we purchase on behalf of the declarant, we're going to get a $75 administrative fee for the work that our people have to do that, which is more than enough to cover our costs. So we're going to get a fee on every one of these as well. Okay? Don't forget to say your name.
I know. Good morning, Carrie Trees. So I have two questions in relation to this. First one, is the declarant going to pay what residents would be expected to pay for the lot merger fees?
We have not said that we're going to reduce any of the lot merger fees at this point.
Thank you. And the second question is, as anyone coming into the community, we would have to pay a $5,000 transfer fee into the POA community. Will those fees also be paid by the declarant to increase our revenue into our community?
Another good question. The answer is no, the declarant won't pay them. When the house is put up and developed, then and we do this with all our builders. So this is not just a thing we do with the declarant. As the house is developed and built, then as part of the closing on that house, the $5,000 fee will be paid. Okay? Any other questions? Come on up.
I'm Ralph Hart. The $5,000 fee, what was the intent of that? How was it decided on? What percentage of people voted for it? How many people even know it exists? And in a real estate market that's going south, and people are trying to do the best they can to buy and sell a home, does this make any sense in growing Fairfield Glade? It's very discriminatory, in my opinion, and I'm sure, again, people I talk to don't understand it or don't know about it.
The $5,000 amenity fee has been in effect since July 1st of 2024. Now, there was an amenity fee that was charged back as far back as 2012. So this is nothing new, it's just the value that changed. What we've been tracking, and if you've been to prior board meetings and workshops, we talk about this, we have been looking at every month whether or not the impact has been on the housing market in terms of what we get our fees for and that type of thing. We have not seen a negative impact at all on this. We've been tracking it now since July 1st, and as a matter of fact, we're slightly ahead of where we were over prior years. The fee was voted on by the board in June, or actually May, and put into effect on July 1st. So again, this is something that the board has been talked about. It's been posted. We put out frequently asked questions, so we try to do our best to communicate. If people don't know about it, right now the people that pay the fee, the intention is for the people that buy the home will pay the fee. So if you have a home and you're selling it, it would not be your fee to pay. It would be the person that's coming in. Okay? So, yeah.
Yes.
Nico Search again. Has Tom Anderson done a 10-year projection on how many homes will be built over the next 10 years, so we get some idea of how this is going to help our community with the $5,000 fees and the POA fees and that type of thing? Thank you.
Greg, I don't believe you addressed fully the other portion of the gentleman's question.
Okay, go on ahead.
He asked, the amenity reserve fee, sir, goes to the amenity reserve fund, which funds all of the amenities that exist, their maintenance and future development of them. You and others that have been here over the years have paid into those amenities. So the intent of the amenity reserve fee is as a new resident comes in, they should contribute to all that is here for them to enjoy that's already in place. So their $5,000 contribution is for their enjoyment of the amenities that are here. It goes into that fund and it can only be used for those amenities. And it applies to all properties regardless of value of home or size of home, because all residents have equal access to those amenities. To charge separately based on your square footage or et cetera, that legal counsel has said would in fact be discriminatory. So it has to apply equally to all home buyers.
It seems to me that all these amenities, you go to play golf and it costs a fortune. When I first came here, golf was free at Druid. It was in the system. If they don't make enough money to pay for themselves, is it even legal to charge these extra fees to do that? Or is that not even a question? I'm not the smartest guy, I guess, in the neighborhood or in the room here, but it just doesn't seem fair and seem very discriminatory to me for some widow or some person that's been in the later years having to contend with a $5,000 fee that they get broadsided with when they need to sell their home just to keep things going for themselves.
Okay, let me give you a couple things on that one. Number one, the intention again is not the person selling the home, but the person buying the home would be paying the fee. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, in the past, what the club has done, we're mainly talking amenity fees. They're not, the amenity reserve fee does not go in necessarily to operations. It goes to capital, okay? So what the intention of that fee is, if we have to make large-scale improvements on an amenity, much like we did with the Racket Center a few years ago, much like we did with Stonehenge a couple years ago, much like we're talking about the racket sports with the pickleball courts, that we want those people who are going to enjoy those things, as Bill said, for a number of years to help with the payment. In the past, more or less, what the people sitting in this room, if you lived here, you paid for those amenities. They came out of your pocket. And people that were coming in were paying like $1,200 to get in to use that amenity. Now, it's nothing to do with the fees. It doesn't have anything to do with what it costs you to play golf on a daily basis or use the racket sports area or pickleball or any of that. So, and I think, well, not think, I know, if you take a look at our fees for what we charge for the amenities, we're a real bargain. And that's just a fact. I would dare any of you to go over to Knoxville, Nashville, and be able to pay for an amenity like our golf courses and the quality of those, or our pickleball courts and the quality of those, or our pools or whatever, and be able to get in and pay what we pay here. It's a bargain. But the amenity reserve fee has nothing to do with the operations. It's got everything to do with the capital investments that we make to either build new amenities or improve the amenities we have. Okay?
How many people live here that do not participate in any of the amenities? I'm a boring fella, I guess. I don't play golf, I don't play pickleball, I don't ride a horse. I mind my own business and try to live a decent life. There's a lot of people, I think, that do the same thing.
Well, let me address that. Now you're on the operations side, and we are what's called a pay-to-play community. And what that means is the amenities for daily use, when you go out and play a round of golf, those are intended to cover the cost of the operations of that amenity. So, and they have in the past. The last 2 years, all the amenities really covered their costs. So, except for food and beverage, and that's a separate item, and that's a whole different discussion. But for those, so when you make the statement that I don't use that amenity, you're not paying for it. The people that use that amenity are the ones paying for the operation of that amenity.
Then why'd I pay the $5,000?
That's for capital infusions. So if we're going to build a new golf course, for instance, or we're building new pickleball courts, the $5,000 can only go for those kind of investments, not the daily use kind of things.
I've been in the Druid Hills office there, center up there.
Come on.
Does it not perform its job? And I don't know, do people just go up there and hang out and do whatever? That building is in such a dilapidated condition, it needs to be replaced. It doesn't seem to me like it does, but now, again, I'm not up there enough to know, maybe. And again, in the people, young people and people that don't have a whole lot of money want to live in a safe place like this, in a beautiful place. I've been here since George Donovan came and started the place. But some people, it's just getting where people can't afford it, that deserve to be able to live in a nice place like this. Now, and if you want to play golf, fine, pay for it. Most of us will help with our monthly fees and all that, but maybe they don't go to that. I don't know how that exactly works. But there's a lot of people, I think, that $5,000 is a make or break whether they buy a home here, because that is negotiable at the real estate. That's not to say that that buyer is going to pay that fee. They're going to negotiate with a homeowner and say, well, I ain't going to buy your property. And people need to sell. They say, well, you know, I got to do what I got to do. And that's hard on a lot of people.
Okay. I'll just make a couple mentions. Number one, we do have to replace Druid Hills now because it's gone. It no longer exists. So that clubhouse is absolutely gone. If you go over there today, what you'll see is dirt. That's all. So we're going to replace that. But the second piece that I could, and I'm repeating myself, but I really want you to make sure that we try to have an understanding here. If you play golf, or you play pickleball, or you use the marinas, those fees that we collect from the people that use those amenities cover the cost of those amenities. Okay? So we're not asking you, or your assessments really are not going to pay those amenities. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, again, the $5,000, if a home seller wants to have that conversation with somebody and pay that fee, that's up to you. The intention is, and where we put it on the closing costs, is for the buyer. Okay? Now, if you want to do something different, that's up to you, not us. We're going to charge the buyer unless we get different direction. So that's where we are with that. Okay?
Why are you charging the buyer?
Because, again, no, it's more than just we can. It's what I would consider to be fairness for everyone sitting in this room that's a member. And the fairness piece comes in is for years, people moving into this community were not paying really for the investment of the things that we built in this community for their enjoyment. And we're trying to make that change so that everyone is equally paying. And just because you come in and we put new pickleball courts in, we want you to help contribute with some of that. So that's the purpose, okay? So.
Thank you.
It's legal.
Yes, it's legal. Been around since 2012.
But you're keeping a lot of people from being able to buy into this.
Well, that's what realtors and people told us, but the data is not supporting that comment. Yeah, we got to move on here too. Okay.
Back when I was chairman of the Financial Advisory Committee, thank God I'm not there anymore, we commissioned a reserve study. And what the reserve study does is say, here's all the property you own, here's what it's going to take to fix it over time. The board looked at that, and I think after they woke up from the unconsciousness, they said, we don't have enough capital. Right now we do, but in 2 or 3 years, we're going to go under, capital-wise. We're not going to be able to maintain our property. The Strategic Planning Committee took a look at funding options. Well, we're limited as a homeowners association to 25 cents on the dollar of assessments going to capital. Right now, you're paying about $19 a month to capital. If we wanted to take that to 25, we'd have to go up $24 a month. Is that right? Yeah, $24 a month to get $6 more of capital. The second way that we can get capital is to do a special assessment. Well, those are like secret words that cause everybody to light a torch and march in the street. Nobody wants to hear the word special assessment in a homeowners association. There's only one way left. It's the lot transfer fee, amenity reserve fee. Now, some communities, that fee is $25,000, $50,000. Go down to Florida and look at some of those properties. So it's been going now for about a year, and what we hoped would be the case has been the case, and that is the numbers, you can't tell on the graph of home builds and lot transfers where that took place. It's the same number of transactions, which means didn't really affect the market. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're going to move on to the second piece. One of the things that's become clear is that we're going to have to look at changing the CNRs for the purpose of doing this type of development. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit on this, and I want to be real clear. We are not declaring today that an election is going to take place. There's, by our CNRs and bylaws, we have to give 60-day notice before an election takes place, and we're not making that declaration today. Okay. So, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of what this amendment has to do? There are rights that are pointed out in the CNRs that for both the community and the declarant, and I'm not going to get into all those rights because they're not appropriate for this conversation. But the major ones I'll get into is for development, the club controls sewer. And there are provisions made in sewer and how we collect money for that sewer. If you don't pay what's called the availability fee, just like if you don't pay your dues, the community club can in fact put liens and eventually foreclose on your property if you don't make those payments. Now, the declarant in the CNRs, he has rights, and those rights are he controls whether or not a road goes in or not. He also controls, if he needs to, and he gets approval really from Crab Orchard because they don't want to do it, he can put water in. And finally, there's other infrastructure that the declarant has been putting in as he's been doing recent development like broadband. If you go up to Chestnut Ridge, you go to Maple Ridge, those are getting broadband in as they put them in. So, he does not have the right to collect or to charge directly the member or the member or anybody else that owns that property to get his money back. So, in effect, what can happen is that we could get our money back and we can put liens and foreclosures on properties if they don't pay. He does not have that right currently, and that's what this is really trying to address. So, why is this amendment important? I want to make a couple connections between what we agreed to and signed in December and what this agreement's going to do. And those connections are, the first and biggest one is the development south of Peavine is going to be the driver of how we're going to increase dues throughout this community. The potential here, and I'm going to give you a couple numbers. If you take a look at the February lots report, what you'll find is right now today, in terms of C lots, now these are all across the whole campus, we have 1,762 what are called C lots, and that's all we're talking about. We're not talking about A's or B's, they're strictly C lots. If we were to get this development done, that's an infusion of over $1 million per year in terms of assessments. That infusion is $1 million that we don't collect from current members. If you take a look at just the county lots, that's 883. And again, Most of these, both in our case as a club and also from the county, are in the area that we're talking about developing. But that's around roughly about another $500,000. Now, I purposely didn't do the math exactly because we know that some of those lots are located outside that area and some of them are not going to be buildable. And what that means is that that's about $1.5 million infusion of the dues or the assessments that we would get on a given year once all this development is done. Now, it'll increase incrementally through the years as we do the building. It's not going to be all at once. The other thing is, if you just take a look, as we've been discussing, the $5,000 amenity fees, you're looking at another infusion of about $13 million when all this is done. These are not small numbers for us. And the fact of the matter is, as you saw with the 10-year plan, and as we grow, and our plan is to grow, if we just did what we're doing now, we grow by about 100 to 125 homes, new homes, every year. Well, as you can probably tell, if you go and use our amenities, that kind of growth is eventually going to catch up with us in terms of being available for members to be able to use the amenities. And as people come in, that's going to get very frustrating to them. So we're going to have to make some investments at different points here. And if we don't do the investments, then what's going to happen, if we do the investments without this development, the people sitting here and the 100 that we get about every year, those are going to be the people that are going to get charged for those assessments. That's going to get expensive fast. But if we're going to grow, it's going to happen. So this is very, very important. Without this CNR, it's quite likely that we would either have to take out additional loans, which will get clubs in trouble, and that's why we manage that, and our growth projections will be fairly well off mark. So some more information about why this is important. All we're asking in the CNR is wording for the declarant to be able to do exactly what the club does. If we put in sewer and the declarant puts in roads, water, infrastructure, there's a cost to that. And just like we charge all of our members when we put in sewer, and it's called an availability fee, we expect to get the cost of what it took us to do the sewer back out into the community so we can actually put in more sewer in different places right after we put it in. The intention here would be the same thing would happen with the declarant. So as roads are built, as infrastructure is put in, what would happen is that the declarant would bill directly to the residents, and the residents, or the owners, I should say, the owners would pay the declarant for those things that he puts in because he has control over them. Now, there's other things that go in. VEC would have to run electricity, and in most cases, you'd find Crab Orchard to be the one that's running the water. When we met with Crab Orchard and talked to them about this, by and large, unless there's a real reason they don't believe it's a good idea, the declarant would probably not be putting in water, in which case then he would go to Crab Orchard and say, look, I'm willing to pay for it, and the Crab Orchard would probably say, fine. So we're not asking for any additional opportunities that we don't have as a community. And this is really, if you take a look at it, you know, currently we're building about 120, 125 homes per year. And along with the declarance agreements that we'd have for Fairfield Glade Community Club, Wyndham, and now the county lots, this will help ensure that we get a sustained, controlled growth. Now, someone said, well, Nico, to your question about, well, when are we going to see, you know, what the projections are? There's a lot of conversation that we have to have as a community club about what we expect that projection to be. And what I mean by that is, how fast do we want to grow? And that's a fair conversation, all right? And we haven't had that yet. So it doesn't do us a whole lot of good to have that conversation until we have all the pieces together and know that we can really put the pedal to the metal to get the development done. What I would also tell you is that if we don't have this amendment, then what will probably happen is the development that we have planned will either be stalled or severely taken on a much smaller scale. So, you know, that's another question we have to answer really as a community club. You know, how fast do we want this to go? And there's implications both ways, whether we continue to do what we're doing or whether or not we want to accelerate that growth. But those are all good things to discuss because it means that we're going to be a growing community again. And for the life of me, what I don't understand necessarily is how all this stopped back in the 80s. If you take a look at the areas that we're talking about south of Peavine, those are all, by and large, mapped out areas, lots. They've been platted, and they've been sold. And people have had those lots for years, and they've never got a return on their investment. This will give them that opportunity, and that's important as well. So what are the next steps to this? We'll be announcing a special election for this CNR amendment to be held 60 days after that announcement. That's by our bylaws. You have to give 60-day notice for a special election. Our intention will be sometime between now and April, once we get all the wording on these declarations all done, we'll be sending out a special notice to all members, letting them know that this CNR is going to be in effect, or we're going to be voting on it. We will need, now this is very important for everybody to understand, we will need 3/4 of the property owners that vote on this amendment to say yes. That's not a small threshold. That's a pretty high one. So we're going to really do a full court effort to try to get people to understand why this is important to the community, and we need people that are coming to board meetings, workshops, committee meetings. We'll have board members be reaching out to other civic organizations and other organizations to make sure they understand the importance of this amendment passage. It will really have a dramatic effect on where we go as a community. And if it doesn't pass, then we're going to be thinking about a whole lot of other things in terms of costs going forward. So we're working on a comprehensive communication plan, and Shannon is going to be helping us a lot with that. And what that means is that we're going to be looking at all the different people and groups that we have to talk to and really trying to work through how exactly the best way to approach them is. And what we have to absolutely do, and I mean this just the way I'm saying it, we have to show to every member why this is a good thing for them. And it is. And that's our charge, is we have to get across to all of you why that's a good thing. We will set up an email, just like we did for Druid and Tom. We did try to respond to those. But we'll set up, just like we did for Druid, for members to be able to easily ask questions. We'll try to turn them around. My goal is always trying to turn them around within 72 hours of receipt of the question. Sometimes it takes longer on things. We have to do some research, but that's the goal. So we'll be setting that up. And I would say that we're planning on having a special election on this sometime probably late May, early June of 2025. And the election itself balloting will take place for probably about 3 weeks, something like that, 2-3 weeks, like we do for the directors' deals. Okay, so that's what we're talking about in the second presentation, the CNR amendment that we are going to encourage people to vote for. And what questions do you have? Come on out.
Eric Duncan, so forgive me, I did not come for this topic. I came for a different topic, but I do have a question. So timing is very important. I think I've seen in my life anyway. And my question is, it sounds like this is an expansive investment, right? Yes. Very large investment, which means it's going to take all of our money to do this, right? And there's a reliance, I think, that there's going to be a demand. There's an assumption, I think, that there's going to be a demand. So my question is, because we have a very uncertain economy, things really no one knows what's going to happen in the future, what would be the implications that if this large investment was made and for whatever reason people decided, because of the economy or other reasons, they decided that they couldn't afford to move here anymore. And now we're stuck with this, what could be tantamount to an upside down mortgage with no way to pay it off other than to raise, property taxes or other taxes on all of us here.
Okay, a good question. and that's one that should be on all of your minds. The answer is that the goal of the development, what I'm going to refer to as south of Peavine, would be a controlled, managed growth. So we're not going to go out and put in a whole bunch of roads or sewers or that kind of thing without actually developing the homes on them as we go along. So when I talk about pace, it's the pace of how quickly or how soon would we build homes. So the investments that we're making would be paid off as we actually start the development, okay? So there's no upfront cost other than what we do as a regular basis. For instance, when we decide to put in sewer in an area, we do the engineering studies, we take a look at whether or not there's a whole bunch of rock there, whether it's not a viable thing, and then only then do we actually start the construction of the sewer, because we know that that's where the homes are going to be developed. It'll be the same thing here. So there would be no intention, and I can't foresee a situation where we would have a deal where we'd have a whole bunch of roads built without the development following, because we wouldn't even start on the roads or the sewer or water or anything else until we knew that the actual development was going to start happening. Great. And that's really under the Declarant's management, because it's up to the Declarant to get the builders all lined up and do all of that prior to asking us to make any investments all.
Very good, thank you.
Because according to our CNRs, a change, an amendment to the CNRs has to be voted on by the property owners. Okay. I'm sorry, Scott.
I was just emphasizing, we're not talking about a capital investment.
No.
We're just talking about
That's right.
enabling growth, because the property
That's
ownership
exactly
south
right.
of Peavine is different than what it was in north of Peavine.
Exactly. And so it's just like we do with our own stuff. All we're really trying to do is give the same rights for mainly liens and foreclosures when someone doesn't pay that availability fee. Okay? All right? Tom?
Just in my mind, so I'm kind of understanding it. So let's say there's a group of lots, there's 100 of them in this first phase development. Some are going to be C, I'm assuming?
No, all of them will be C.
All would be C. Okay, that's the clarity I need. Thank you.
Yeah, remember again, when we talked about this in December, and the same way is true with the county lots, and the same thing's true with Wyndham, we're only talking about C lots in those areas that are in what we call Appendix A. So there's no Bs or As that are included in this.
Rick, can I just add one point? So when you think about development like Hickory Ridge and what's the other one up there, Ellen? Chestnut Ridge. So that's a scenario where the developer owns all the lots. They go in there and build a road, so they're able to incorporate the cost of building that infrastructure in when they sell the lots.
Right.
South of Peavine, because how the community developed, there's individual owners of the lots, and so now how do you enable development down there and investment in infrastructure? You want the CNR helps enable that growth by having an avenue to recover infrastructure expenses.
Okay? Any other questions? This is simpler than I thought. So you're going to be hearing a lot more about this. Also, to a question that was said earlier, our intention is at the April board meeting, just like we did in July, after the board meeting, we'll ask people, and I hope everyone stays, because we're going to cover two topics. Scott talked about one, the strategic planning committee's work, and the second one will be, we'll go through what the costs and estimates are for Druid, and talk about that project, because at that point we'll be already started with it, and we really want to make sure the community understands what we said a couple of years ago and where we are today. So those will be special ones. If people don't want to stay, they'll be here for the board meeting, they can leave. But I would encourage you to try to come to those to get a good understanding of what we're doing with strategic planning and Druid. Okay? All right? Thank you. There we go. Now we'll get back to the regular business. Did forget one thing. Bruce, you want to give the resort report?
Yep. In the absence of Ms. Storr, the timeshare revenues with food for February, the center was $12,997. Racket Sports generated $265. Nil for the marinas. There wasn't any revenue. And the golf and food was $3,839. Now, golf was down for the same period last year. But overall, the difference in percentages was 1% from the same month last year. So, you know, a 1% differential as compared to last year is all that was the impact. Though it was interesting because the actual percentage of occupancy in February was ahead of last year. So people were staying inside because the weather was nasty. That's why they weren't out on the boats fishing. So that's the timeshare report for February. Bruce? Yes, sir.
Please come up here or
come up. Got to hear you.
Yeah, we're being a little cautious about this because
Nico
we've gotten a lot
Sergio.
of feedback from people that have been streaming. They can't
Could you
hear.
repeat the center?
They're not hearing the question, so.
The funding coming into the center? Could you repeat that? The center.
The center itself.
The center, 12,997.
Okay, that's center. I had it written down as something else.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before, I'm sorry, Jerry, go on.
Jerry Miller. Bruce, what goes into that center's income? What's that center's income represent?
Well,
The 12,000.
It includes the golf and pools and pools, but go ahead.
Yeah. So Jerry, we had an email exchange in reference to this. If you'll allow me just to kind of answer from a 50,000 feet, excuse me. The money that goes into the center is based on pay and play, as well as the monthly fee that the Wyndham pays to Fairfield Glade for usage with the guest.
Is that the access fee for the pools, mini golf,
It would-
gym? Is that the income we receive from that payment that they're supposed to give us every month?
Well, it would include, yes, the monthly payment or monthly fee for access, but also if they have a guest and they were to pay, that would flow into
Let me
the
ask
center.
you, Jason, let me ask you again. Timeshare is supposed to pay us, each owner, $8.50 a month. For a week, for free access, unlimited access to pools, mini golf, and gym. That should run around $206,000 a year. I want to know if that $850 is included in the income reported for the center.
It is.
Thank you. Greg, we know what the 2024 number is. It's $121,000. It should have been $181,000. So if the number you refused to give me for now 2 months is known by you, published every month in the report, you're about a third short of what should be, and it's continuing. And Mr. Chadwell, thank you. I assume you're familiar with the laws of 4866, 101 through 104 that says that we are entitled to accounting records by filing a request in good faith and with purpose. And I've asked for this number now since February 1. This board, headed by our president, has refused to even talk about it. And I filed 3 document requests for this information, filed good faith for a valid purpose. One was a $530,000 revenue proposal I was working on, and I needed to get the offset. Greg would not give me the offset. That says $850 payment. He would not tell me what value is. And he's violated 1 document request. The board is complicit in this. He violated a 2nd document request, and he didn't even respond to the 3rd. All I'm trying to find out is what Times Square is paying us versus what we should be receiving. He will not give me that number. And Mr. Chadwell, will you please tell me, if I was the board, what would you advise me?
The club has complied with its statutory obligations.
What the heck does that mean?
It means exactly what I said.
You didn't answer my question.
I'm not obligated to answer your question.
We pay your way. We pay your fee. We pay your fee. The board doesn't. We pay your fee. What's going on here, folks?
I answer to the board. I don't answer to you, Mr. Miller. And I'm not going to speak any more about this dispute in this forum, only to say that the club abides by its statutory obligations.
But they aren't.
If you think that you are still lacking some information, then you're free to file another request and we'll review it.
I filed 3. How many more what more can I do?
I have nothing else to say
Jerry,
right now, Mr.
I'm
Miller.
going to put it close to this comment. I believe if you go back and read my emails, it told you exactly what you needed to do, and you haven't done it.
That is not true.
That is true.
That is not true.
I'm not going to get into this argument with you. I have the documentation, so
You have all the-
please take a seat. We're done with this conversation. We're moving
Are we
on.
really?
Yeah, we are.
Is that how we do it here, huh?
Yeah, that's how we do it here. So please take a seat. Before we move on in old business, I do need a motion from the board to authorize me to sign the agreement for the county lot sales to Declarant.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Let's do it.
All right, new business. The Druid Hills Clubhouse construction car.
I am bringing forward a capital authorization request for the construction of the Druid Hills Clubhouse. This is the complete amount. The car is for $15,764,189. It includes the general contractor fee of $14,884,280. The balance of the architect's fees and those by-owner costs that we need to contribute, which is the FF&E IT package, landscaping, and the simulators and the site work. So I therefore move that we approve this car for the Druid Hills Clubhouse construction costs.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? Go ahead, Tom.
So I understand next meeting you're going to go through the numbers. It seems like we're putting the cart before the horse, because I'll refer you to last July, to the presentation. can look up on the slides when Bruce Cox made the presentation, and he outlined the cost. 15,237,000 was the number, plus then a contingency of 1 million. So total cost was 16,237,000. The initial cost before contingency, 15,237,000. So we're $500,000 over that based on this car right now. And I would have liked to at least seen the presentation before I hear a vote on spending the money. So I don't know if you can answer where we're different.
Tom, I'd just like to say that those were estimates. These are firm numbers.
Okay.
Okay? We didn't have a general contractor at the time that was presented, so the other thing is we have to take into account inflation in construction materials and labor.
And now we're going to be still in the boat of other costs too going up. I understand that. And the range, just to be fair and completely transparent, the range that Bruce mentioned in this project was anywhere from 15 to 18 million in the presentation.
Correct.
He said that. All I'm saying here is, okay, again, Mary Kay, let's just be transparent. You could have put up on the screen, here's what Bruce told you. Now here's where we're at today, another estimate with more information.
This isn't an estimate.
It's a contract.
This is the cost, a contract.
Okay, let's mark that down then. What I'm hearing you tell me is, at the end of the day, we will be at this car price. That's what I'm hearing. You're being very clear on that. That's the price, total of this project. That's what you're being very clear on, Mary Kay.
I
we
listed
understand
out
what
what it covers.
Okay,
And-
so
and
this is.
There was already a car for,
Oh, no way.
Well,
Sorry. In reference to the numbers, Tom, we have a contract from J&G. We have met numerous times with Vic Jones, the architect, and we've put in contingencies. We have FF&E, everything broke down in terms of the owners. When they go through the numbers next month, you will see a formalized breakdown of everything that is within this number. And being that close to an estimate a couple of years ago is outstanding.
There is also variances in the contract.
Yeah.
One of which is new to all of us, and it is specified tariffs. So, I mean, no one knows the answer to that.
I'm not trying to be exact. What I'm trying to get you to do is to have some governance around when you tell us a set of numbers, and we understand. I understand that they're going to change. I wouldn't have said Bruce's range of 15 to 18 million if I didn't understand. I understand it. What I'm asking you to do is you showed us one set of numbers, and by the way, just so you understand, that was July after the town hall meeting. There were probably about 15 people in the audience at that time versus the town hall meeting where you had a lot and no cost, but that's another subject. What I'm curious about in these numbers, this is a car which includes the contract for the contractor. We've already purchased the modular building. I don't know if that's in there or not, again, seeing the numbers.
That's not in there.
And it's not in there, but in Bruce's number, go back to the slide, it was 282,000 in that number. The food truck, then if you're saying has already been purchased, that wouldn't be in the number, that's 65,000. So we're over the 16 million already? That's what you're telling us?
We're at 16.6.
We're at 16.6. Okay.
I guess
So-
All total.
an estimate of about 16.3.
All right. So is that hard?
No,
that's
it's
No,
not.
but
That's-
we would like to.
That's why we will present it in April, and we'll go through all the numbers.
Nico Sergio. We have to pay it has been reported or suggested that we have a loan I'd like to know, do we have a loan, the interest rate and the initiation fees, and what is the projected cost of the principal and interest over 12 years? I understand was a suggested payoff. So, yeah, how are we going to pay for this?
Okay, so in reference to the loan, we have a verbal commitment from the bank. And the verbal commitment is a 18-month construction period at Wall Street Journal Prime.
Could you tell us what the prime is?
7.5%.
And after that, is it another 10 years or 12 years or what?
So after that, once the construction is complete, we go into a 240-month, 20-year mortgage based on valuation as built. Principal and interest payments at the rate will be struck at the time, so 18 months from now. We don't know what that rate is going to be. Hopefully it's less than prime. And then it's reassessed at 5 years, but a 240-month amortization.
You say it's a 20-year loan?
Yes.
In July, they recommended a 10-year. They recommended that just an interest payment on the first 2 years and then a 10-year loan. So now you've changed it to 20.
No, it's interest only during the build period for the 18 months.
Correct.
Okay, and then it goes into a principal and interest repayment program for 240 months.
And Nico, that was always the intent. The
Okay.
term of the loan changed because we thought it was a better opportunity here. But it was always the intent that during the construction phase, it was an interest-only loan, and then we move it into a traditional loan.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay? Any other questions?
Diana Brown, and I don't keep up with everything, I have to admit. But my...
Could you please move the microphone down?
Lower
Yeah,
for short
there you
people.
go. Thank you.
I would like to know why we are building another restaurant when one restaurant can't make it. I mean, we're subsidizing one restaurant and we're building another restaurant. I have been to these restaurants in 20 years. I have been there at the most 5 times. I cook at home. It's cheaper. So why are we putting this money out for another restaurant that is going to go belly up?
I think, and this is a very long discussion, but what I would tell you is I'd refer you to the member site where we've done all the presentations with the town halls, all of the estimates and everything. And that has been out in the public sector for every year since 2021, every time we've talked about this. So rather than go through all of that, I would refer you to the member site and look at the presentations that were done.
So we're subsidizing another restaurant when we could put that money into something really useful instead of going downhill.
Thank you. All right. Yep.
Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Arthur J. Lendo. Been here for 8 years. I guess that makes me an old timer now. Today's meeting reminds me that as a longtime CEO, it's a very good time to be retired. So I want to thank all of you for all of your work. Welcome to the newest employees. It was a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to the 2 newest board members. Scott Hardmeyer, A+. It's time for grades. Been here 8 years. Greg and I both come out of higher education, so you'll forgive me. Thank you for all of your work on strategic planning and your other efforts in this major capital project. Forthright, honest. Monica High School, welcome. Thank you. Governance. You hit the nail on the head. This is about governance. We have antiquated covenants and restrictions. I'll come back to that. We have antiquated bylaws. There's an awful lot going on here, and I know a lot of dust is kicking up, and your efforts are much appreciated. We're in a sea change here. We're going from rustic, that was one of the descriptions today, and we're moving to something else. So once again, Greg, A+ today for forthrightness. You're moving on the covenants and restrictions. We need a comprehensive review. Bylaws, we need a comprehensive review, and I believe Monica Heisel and others will lead that charge. Once again, as I said earlier, I guess I'm a veteran now, 8 years, and I'm retired. But some of us remember when Scott, the Strategic Planning Committee, resigned en masse. That's water over the dam. But that memory lingers for a lot of people, and I appreciate, Greg, you taking the time to let people speak to this. Because there are a lot of people here, many of them veterans, who have a lot of questions about where we're going. So today, we just went through an exercise. $15,764,189. Thank you, Ms. Jacobson, for your explanation. I would just like to remind everybody, and I have the document here, the initial projection to replace the current facility is 17,300 square feet, $4,325,000. So you can see why people are out here asking questions today. We're looking at 16, and I still don't have an answer yet on the debt service. So, and I realize this is, you're going to go forward, Greg, with the next presentation. Everybody wants to know, what's the projected total cost, including the debt service? So do you have that answer for me today, Mr. Treasurer, or Mr. New Financial Officer? What's the projected total cost of the Druid Hills project? Do we have a projected total cost for just the Druid Hills project?
Dr. Lindo,
Yeah.
in reference to the projected cost, the interest only, we don't know what the draw schedule is going to be.
Right.
We don't have a contract yet. We can only estimate what it would be in the first 8 months, which would be 12/31 end. That number is approximately $239,000 interest for that period. As far as the P&I, when it goes forward after the construction period, we don't have a strike price in terms of the rate. We do have a term, but we do not have a rate to cross-reference, and so I can't give you a figure of what it would cost on an annual basis for that interest.
Okay, so I assume you'll come forward in the near future or as soon as you can with what is likely to be?
Well, I'll comply with what Dr. Jones requests in terms of information, and then what he chooses to present would be what would be presented to the membership. But nothing will be hidden in reference to the P&I.
Very good. Thank you, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Now let me move now in the interest of time. I want to move to the 800-pound gorilla in the middle of the room. What is the relationship as we move forward under your leadership, Greg? It's a new era. We're evolving here. We're no longer a rustic community. Are we going to be Rarity Bay? Are we going to be Tellico Bay? As you said, you're going to initiate conversations now with the community. And here, based on my 35 years of experience in governance and major capital projects, here are the major questions. What's our relationship going to be with the Declarant? Kudos, Greg, for forthrightness, covenants and restrictions. What's that relationship going to be?
Well, well, Ellen, maybe you might want to answer that first.
I would say we're working to strengthen our relationship so that we can help build out the southern part of Fairfield Glade, which is what we started to try and do. Since I've been on the board, it's been a long time building out these agreements that we've been putting together, but that we're trying to take the necessary steps so that we can work together.
Thank you.
Fairfield Glade will work best when the declarant and the community are in a partnership.
What's our relationship going to be with Wyndham Timeshare going forward? What is so we have the Declarant, Timeshare, and what's our relationship going to be with the county? I was very appreciative today that I believe the 6th district representative came, and I believe Monica, you still here? Yeah. Colleen Mull, 9th district, right, Colleen? Once again, she is here. What's our relationship going to be? Because as I look at these major capital projects, I believe you're projecting to spend over $70 million. So today, back to governance, we're looking at a board made up of 7 people. 5 of them are voted at large. One of them is a guaranteed voting rights seat to the declarant. Ellen is presently in that position. We also have a guaranteed position for Wyndham Timeshare with full voting rights. So there are 2 positions. They make up essentially, I believe the correct percentage, and you mathematicians can correct me, that would be 1/7, 14 2/7%. So I think an obvious question here is 16 million, 18 million for Druid Hills? Doesn't the declarant, don't Wyndham Timeshare stand to benefit in a very substantial financial way? What is going to be their financial contribution to these major capital projects going forward? One could argue, as a declarant or a Wyndham Timeshare has 14%, right? My math is correct. So let's see, 15 million, if my mathematics is correct, I have to check my cell phone. I think we could look to the declarant for $2.252 million contribution to the Druid Hills project. And simultaneously, possibly a 2.252 contribution. After all, this is a partnership. The most recent newspaper article, Greg, and once again, I appreciate your forthrightness here. In your presentation, you talk about strategic partnerships. And I saw the most recent article from the Glade Sun, which ended with strengthening our strategic partnership. Outstanding. That's really good news. So, is the board looking to reasonable, equitable, based on board seats, because that's a very standard approach to these kinds of things nationally and elsewhere. Should we be looking to contributions from those 2 entities, since clearly Wyndham, I think, Greg, you said they have, what was it, 1,200, almost 1,300 votes? 1,300 votes? And obviously, we're moving now to define a new relationship with the declarant. I don't think this particular CNR, I don't think it ends there. This is the beginning of a new relationship. We're all in this together. We know what's going on down the road here at the Westall exit. This area is going to change very, very dramatically and rapidly. What's the name of that place? Flat Rock? Oh, it's amazing. And now we're hearing about a new water. A water commission's been established. Where are we going with water? So once again, thank you for all of your efforts. But you can hear people, you can hear their voices. So we've gotten a great start here. with the Declarant, and I think it's to have those same kinds of conversations with Wyndham. And Greg, I know you will lead them, and I hope you do it very publicly as we go forward. This is no longer a rustic community. I will close with this. I speak from very direct experience. For those of you who know me, I was one of the Hickory Ridge Five. Scott Hardimer referenced Hickory Ridge and Chestnut Ridge before. The Hickory Ridge Five fought bitterly for 2.5 years with just about everybody to get our roads completed. People did not fulfill the obligations of their contracts. And I realize, Greg, we have a new board now, and especially 2 new members. Good. Because I can tell you in that 2.5-year battle, our board didn't back us one bit. They did not offer any support at all. And I hope that's going to change in the future, because it has to change. 2.5 years, and by the way, I live on Hickory Ridge Lane. My road wasn't finished for 16 years. That's right, 2007 to 2023. And if my higher math is right, the obligations were not fulfilled for 16 years. So it's a new day. Scott, once again, thanks for your leadership on this strategic planning. And once again, Monica, governance, governance, governance. What is our relationship going to be with all these very important strategic partners? I look forward to the board's activity. And in closing, I especially want to welcome the new support in finance. I have experienced year after year for 8 years now. I'm trying to find the right word here. I'm going to use the term inaccurate, maybe unreliable, and I'm speaking about projections. I've seen so many projections, estimates, things of that nature, and based on 36 years as a CEO, I have found them to be unreliable. So, Greg, I thank you for your time, and good luck to all of you going forward. I see real positive movement, and thank you again. This has been probably the most forthright board meeting I've ever attended. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Okay, we do have a motion on the floor to approve the car, and we have a second. Any further discussion on the car? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. One of the things that you get to do as president is appoint the election committee every year. We do this at this time, according to the bylaws, we have to do this within 180 days of the election, so it is time. We've got 5 people that will be remaining on the committee. Those people are Kathy Tipton, who's the chair, Michael Scherer, who is a member, Adrian Salmon, who's a staff support, and Pat Davis, who is the recording secretary for the group, and myself, who's the board liaison. And that's called out in the bylaws, that the president acts in that role. We had 3 new members that we're going to appoint: Dwight Merrick, Jean Donovan, and Sue Epler are all going to be appointees for this year. The terms of these are 1 year, and we can self-appoint, but they're appointed, they're not elected or anything like that. But one of the things we talked about in the board members last year is, even though I have the right to appoint, we want to make sure that the board is on board with that. So, are there any questions about any of these members? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll make the appointments. Actually, we're going to have our first meeting of the election committee tomorrow, and we'll kick that off. And we don't really even know if we'll have an election. So we'll have to see how that moves out, but we won't know that till sometime in May. So that's done. Okay, appointments of the Racket Center Expansion Project Steering Committee. Scott?
Sure. So we're getting ready to kick off. It's on our capital plan that we're going to add capacity. Pickleball is growing in this community tremendously. But we also have a lot of growth in tennis as well. And right now, I don't know if anybody shared the figures. I think William did when he first, several months ago when he made a projection. And so we have two driving forces. The popularity of pickleball continues to grow here as well as across the nation. And we start, especially on indoor, we started having some contention for our limited indoor space. So we're going to kick off that expansion project that we've had on the capital plan to add more capacity. 2 years ago, the Racket Sports Committee had made a proposal, a two-phased approach. What we're going to do is ask the committee to start there, look at is that still the best option, both financially and from a capacity to address the issues at the Racket Center, and what other things. We want to make sure that we're building a high quality and capacity at our Racket Center for both pickleball and tennis and for future growth. So with that, we solicited interest. We had outstanding interest from the community, and I thank all those that applied. We had 16 applicants. As I had talked earlier with these ad hoc advisory committees, we're looking for a mix of different experiences and skill sets. So we're looking for people with racket sports background, different levels of experience, whether it's pickleball and then some tennis background as well. And then we also look for somebody that had the construction and engineering experience that we talked about earlier that we got from our MCPC committee. And so we've got 7 people that I'm recommending be added to the committee. The committee will be led by William Taylor, our Racket Center director, along with Greg Reppert, our project manager, and Matthew Presley, the assistant project manager. And the mix of the steering committee will be those that are users of the product, the players, the people that play the sport, as well as the construction. So on the consumer side, we have Ann Massoud, Julie Schaefer, Dale Schnarr, who also represents the Racket Sports Committee, is on that as well. And Terry Hanna, who was involved in developing the initial recommendation that was presented to the board 2 years ago. So thought it was good to bring Terry in with his background and experience with the initial proposal and his experience in using the Racket Center. Brad Reuter, who was a former member of the MCPC, has agreed to be a part of it, as well as Ron Johnson, a former member of MCPC, who brings a lot of excellent background in terms of project management, construction management, consulting from his experience. And then we also have Dan Dietz. And Dan, I just met. He brings a background and actually worked for a firm for over 20 years and still does some consulting with them on actually building athletic facilities. So his career was building athletic facilities, including pickleball and tennis facilities across the country. So he'll be a great asset to work with William and Greg as we look for contractors and come up with design options and construction options. So I make a proposal that the 7 people I mentioned be appointed to the Racket Center Expansion Steering Committee.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we got our committee. Transfer from operating reserves to capital.
This is the time of year as we close out and get ready for the audit, is the normal transfer from operating reserves to capital projects. This year, we have no request to move dollars over. And I ask Jason to do a little fill-in on the good news on this.
Thanks, Bruce. Based on our projections for 2025 and our historical data that we have that we analyzed, our revenue is going to exceed our expenses for the year. So therefore, we are not requesting any type of transfer for 2025.
A lot of this is due with the discussion we had a few minutes ago, or maybe it was longer than a few minutes ago, about the amenity reserve fee. Because we raised those fees, the income is coming in, and this is a direct relationship to the reason, one of the big reasons why we're not having to move money from out of the operating reserves to the capital. So it's working. Okay? Dare I say, comments from the floor?
Eric has been waiting.
I have. And so this is all about, nothing we've talked about yet. This is all about the lakes, okay? Many of us are property owners. Many of us use the lakes here. There was a commitment at the end of last year from the Director of Community Maintenance anyway, through the board, that all of the lakes would be desilted. All the lakes here, the 11 lakes we have here in Fairfield Glade, they'd be desilted starting in the fall of last year, and that desilting would be completed no later than late spring of this year. That activity was begun. Lake Glastonbury was in fact desilted. There was a little bit of a holdup because of weather, but it was completed, and then I understand that Lake Canterbury is in progress. Or I'm sorry, Lake Catherine, excuse me, is in progress. At the last board meeting, Lakes Committee meeting, the last Lakes Committee meeting, which is held March, it was the first one of the year, we were informed by the Director of Community Maintenance that all desilting funding had been suspended and that no additional lakes would be desilted in 2025 after Lake Catherine is completed. This was a complete shock to the Lakes Committee members and everyone else there, since up until this point we had been told and we were assured that the desilting would be completed as promised. So my question is, what changed and why?
I can initially speak to that, and Bruce, if you would also follow up. I don't know where the misunderstanding on the part of the Lakes Committee or others came from, but as Sam reported, and we can go back to prior meeting minutes, the total cost to do all the lakes is in excess of $4 million. There was never any plan to do all 11 lakes at once. It's just not financially feasible. Secondly, the permitting to do that is quite time consuming. The reason we had to carry over into 25 was because the permitting was taking so long just on the lakes that were covered in the budget, which was $350,000 to do those 3 lakes. So what was discussed with regards to other individuals on those lakes that created some confusion, I can remember, was if individuals wanted desilting done in front of their personal docks or properties. Those are not part of the contracting by Fairfield Glade and would be the responsibility of individual homeowners to make those necessary arrangements. But once that firm leaves one lake to go to the other, they don't go back, and the cost for them is quite extensive to mobilize and to demobilize. So Lake Catherine is scheduled to come to completion in mid-April, and that will end the current desilting project under the current permitting that we have.
Are you suggesting that has always been the plan and that we were just simply misinformed, or was there a change to the plan at some point?
Again, I don't know that where the misinformation came from, because it was my recollection and in my meetings with Sam and in his presentation, that is what was presented. I don't know where this belief that all 11 lakes were going to be done in less than a year came from. That
Yeah.
was never
We've
contemplated.
never done that.
That's never happened in the history of Fairfield
Well,
Glade.
regardless of how many, certainly, we were under the impression that more than just the two would be completed. And certainly, I can tell you that there was a permit application notification on Lake Canterbury. You know, they put the big sign up, you know, if you have any issues, please give us a call kind of thing. So it seems to me that at some point, that application permit was being pursued, and now it is not being pursued. And I'm just trying to understand why it changed. There seems to be some changes going on here, and it just, it's a bit frustrating when you have to hear about this for the first time when, you know, I was a lake rep. I had made certain commitments to the lake owners on Lake Canterbury, and it's very difficult to go back and say, well, that was a mistake. We thought we were going to be desilted, but we're not. And then moving forward, when will those lakes be desilted? That's the other question. Normally, those lakes are on a 3-year cycle. Okay, it was actually moved up, thank you, to this year, but then it was delayed, no thank you. So my question is, will it be done now in the fall, or will there be further delays?
The desilting is now scheduled. There was money budgeted and approved in 2024 and money budgeted and approved in 2025. The contract signed with SRS was for both. And so in order to save on mobilization costs, we bundled the 2 years together. This was per SAM before I took this job. So the next round of desilting is not scheduled until the fall of 26 and the winter of 27. And there will be the SRS, the current contractor doing the desilting, has a list of lakes that they've done. And so that all the lakes are done sequentially. The next 2 lakes or 3 lakes, depending on the amount of silt that they identify, will be done in 26 and 27.
Okay. I appreciate that. Just for your information, there are property owners on these lakes that literally cannot get their boats in and out of their docks because of the silt that currently exists in front of their docks. The other question I had was regarding tilapia. Apparently the tilapia planting, which we normally do every May and have done for many, many years, that is also being discontinued, and I'd like to understand why that is as well. Because that does contribute to the beautification of the lakes. It keeps the algae out of the lakes so that everybody can enjoy that.
The tilapia stocking program was suspended based on the recommendation of our lakes rep. They didn't feel that they were getting enough bang for their bucks from the tilapia, so they're looking at another option, but it's not going to involve tilapia. So that was made prior to this budget
By our
period
consultant.
as well.
By our lake consultant, correct.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My name's Steve McCauley, been a homeowner for 12 years. In my career prior to retirement, I sat on public boards, been in charge of boards, been chair of boards. Transparency with public entities, which this is a public entity in my opinion. There is a need for executive sessions for the board to discuss, to determine, like Bill's position. But my concern is transparency. You can decide on a superintendent of schools who they're going to recommend in an executive session. But the vote is in public so that the public knows as a board, how they vote. I don't understand why this board doesn't vote publicly to a show of support for these individuals. Because I remember when I was superintendent of schools, I asked the board, is this going to be a unanimous vote? Because I hated to go into a job 4-3, one vote away from being fired. I understand about being behind closed doors on hiring certain individuals. You don't do that for all of them. That's in bylaws that says that the board has the authority to hire lesser known. But I don't understand from us as the public to see, was this hire a divided board, or was it a consensus or a 7-0 vote in favor of, I'll use Bill, and I think Bill was a great hire. But what is the harm for the board to publicly say, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? So that we know that you support and you publicly declare how you are hiring these people. So I think in 12 years, I've heard transparency, transparency, transparency. But then I see certain things are going, well, it's in our bylaws. We are following federal, state guidelines, state law. But I just don't understand why we don't publicly say, and it also ensures people like Bill, these people back me in public.
Let's go through that a little bit.
Okay.
First of all, we're not a government organization. Let's start there.
Okay.
This is a community club, and it's formed under a not-for-profit situation, structure. In our bylaws, the only person that reports to the board is the general manager. Everyone else, like Jason's position as CFO, reports to Bill. So the only place where the board weighs in terms of saying this is the hire is that gentleman right there, that position. We do not hire the CFO. We do not hire any of the SMTs. That is up to Bill to do that. So we do vote every time that we make a decision, and I'll get back to your question about the general manager. We do vote publicly. There are no votes taken of any consequence to the community at an executive session. And that's by our rules. So the board is the one that hires the general manager. The board has that decision-making authority given to it by our bylaws. So we would not vote publicly on that position because we announce who it is, and we've in the past had that position interact with some of the community. So that's not a question of transparency, that's by rule, if you will. And I would hope that by you seeing the people around here, we have given all of our support to Bill. There's not even a question in our minds.
In our bylaws, it says that
what it says is the general manager reports to the board, okay? And that's going to be, when we get into the governance conversation, that's going to be reaffirmed. So,
And that's exactly what PCA said, is
Yeah.
that we are responsible for hiring the GM, and the GM is responsible for hiring the staff.
Exactly.
Go back, you said in an executive, you can decide, but did you say you voted for Bill in a public board meeting?
No, we don't, because it's the board's decision who is going to be put in that seat. I can see no reason, really, and now I'm speaking just, from my own perspective. I see no reason why this board would vote in public to affirm Bill's position, because if he's not the guy we think is right, by the sheer nature that if we thought he's not right, we wouldn't put him in the chair. So
But
there's,
would you, if you had one member say, Bill's not the person I want, would you still do it?
well, I can honestly tell you, all right, and I'm not giving away any state secrets here, that doesn't come up in these things. We brought in 3 candidates to talk to about the board, about the position. And,
Well,
and it just, it's one of those things that the board decides, and no, we don't take a vote, but I could tell you that if someone had a strong feeling that the person that we were interviewing was not the right person, they would share that. So that's the way it works. The board makes that decision, and I see no need to ever bring that into a public vote.
well, I think transparency, for 12 years, I heard transparency.
And
Transparency.
what I'll tell you is that transparency is defined by each individual. That's what I've learned through sitting in this chair for a while. Okay?
Okay, normally we don't come up in front of a board or anything, but
Please talk into the mic. Yeah, we can't hear you.
we normally don't come in to the board, but we've got a few problems. First off, my name is Deborah Nelson. This is Andy. We live in 32 Hunterwood Court, and we've been here 10 years.
I'm sorry, can you still speak up a little bit? We can't hear you.
My name is Deborah Nelson. My husband is Andy. We lived here 10 years, come spring. We live on Hunterwood Court, and I would like to know what the meaning of in harmony with existing dwellings on adjoining and surrounding lots mean.
What, I think I know your situation. And
I think
have you-
everybody does.
Let me ask you this. Have you been to the ACC?
Yes,
Over and over again.
I know Bruce well.
All right.
I know Tiffany.
And Sam before him,
What has the ACC told you?
that they can do nothing.
Their hands are tied.
They are building, well, they're not building, nothing's been done on that house for months.
Here.
Yeah, you got,
The house being built next door is an absolute monstrosity. It's an eyesore, and it's built right on the property line. It should never have been approved in the first place on that lot. It's almost 6,000 square feet.
On one lot.
And they broke ground in July of 2023. And it's been sitting there in Tyvek for 8 months. I will concede, he finally came around and finished shingling the roof last week. It's
Okay,
outrageous, and it's destroying our property value.
okay, let me, Bruce, you want to say something here? And then we'll get back to what I think you need to do, okay?
Yeah, the only thing I can say is the ACC is doing everything possible to see that the house gets completed and the deadlines are met. We're using everything at our disposal to get it done, and we can't do any more.
When is
Okay.
the deadline?
The deadline's coming past.
Okay, so here's the thing. We have an appeal process that's a formal process, okay? What I would suggest you do is go back to the ACC, and Bruce, we need a documentation of what they're saying. If you do not like what the ACC tells you, you can appeal your situation to the board, and there's a regular time that we meet every month to hear those appeals, okay?
That's what we need to know.
And that's what I would suggest you do.
We were going to come to the most recent appeals meeting, and we were told that it wasn't open to the public.
Well, that's because you missed the public part. There's 2 parts to the, actually, the appeals meeting itself was we conducted that, and we were conducting other business that was not appeals related in the meeting that you were trying to come to. That meeting started at 9, and it got over around 10:30 in the morning. So what you need to do is go through the regular appeal process, and Bruce can help you with that. There's a form you fill out, and we will get you scheduled on an appeal meeting, but get the ACC to put in writing, because we have to look at both sides of the situation. We have to understand what the ACC has told you, and then we need to understand your situation, okay? So that's what I would ask you to do, and we'll help you get through that process. But we have a formal time that we'll listen to your appeal, okay?
But you do know it's a fire hazard.
Well, that's what we want to hear about in the appeal thing. That's why we have a special session, because we have both representatives from the ACC, and you'll be there, and we'll be here, and we can have a conversation about what's going on with all parties available.
Okay.
Do we need a form from you?
Okay, I appreciate it.
That's the second Wednesday of each month.
Yeah, it's the second Wednesday of each month.
That's for your portion. If you want to go before the ACC.
Monica?
Yeah.
Mine's correct.
Oh. If you want to go before the ACC, that would be on the 1st of April is the next one.
We've gone before.
Okay, all right, yeah, then work with them to put together an appeal.
Nico, Sergio, if they are past their allotted time to construct this, finish this house, have fines started, and can you give us some information on how much is a fine?
I can't disclose that, Nico. That's not public information.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that we need to hear when we hear the whole thing. That will be part of the board discussion. So that's how that works. Okay? Anything else?
Well, just to clarify, the appeals meeting's the 9th, not the 1st.
Yeah, it's the 9th.
I said the ACC.
Hi, my name is Ted Landers. Thank you for allowing me to speak. This is the third consecutive meeting where I have been looking for a motion for the cost for the redo of Stonehenge Grill, which was completed in December. And that was for the new commercial dishwasher, a wall replacement, mold mitigation, replacing the floor in the serving area. And I haven't seen that motion at all. Can you please tell me what the cost was for that and why we haven't seen a motion?
It did not rise to the car level. It was paid for through operating maintenance.
It wasn't a capital project.
It's not a capital project.
But any expense, of my understanding, if it's $20,000 or less, you can approve, the manager, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. And if it's more than that, it requires board approval. I'm sure with the new commercial.
Not a capital improvement. This was maintenance.
This is O&M.
Okay. Can you tell me what the cost was that we spent in order to get Druid back up to speed? Stonehenge, sorry, Stonehenge.
Jason, I have to give Jason to get that number. But.
Okay. And then secondly, is there a dollar amount that projects are then decided they need to go out for bid? Is it like $5,000 or $20,000, or is there just kind of a number, or is it, how do you determine when something goes for a bid and when it doesn't?
Well, it's on all, I mean, we do not have a minimum threshold. It is anything that is a capital project, we get multiple bids on. Maintenance, we have, much of it can be done internally. It is done internally with our own staff. If we have to go out to get other contractors to assist, we get multiple bids in that case. But a good much of our O&M is done internally.
Okay. And then the last thing is, I have a question about the restroom replacement at Stonehenge number 5. This project was started back when when the golf course was still open last fall. It's now ongoing. It's been 6 months since they rebuilt the restroom, and it's still not open, and Stonehenge Golf Course is open. The last 3 days, I've seen the Fairfield Glade trucks there working. Is there not like a contractor who has a turnkey responsibility to build it. I don't understand why we've got Fairfield Glade people doing something on this.
Because we were able to do it.
You were able to build the whole house by it, the restroom by itself?
Yes.
Okay. And
We've done that on numerous, in the past, on numerous rest facilities on the golf courses.
okay, well, it just seems that the end timing is bad, that it wasn't done before Stonehenge opened this year. I mean, 6 months seems like a long time for a relatively simple structure. I mean, I know there was a lot of work and with the sewer and all new stuff, but 6 months is a long time for that. So, thank you.
Anyone else?
Ron Miller, Cromwell Lane. Mr. Ward, I'd like to thank you for the response on the email that I sent you a couple of months ago to start with. I have a question, and I don't see anybody from the police department here to be able to answer this question.
Chief of Police is here.
You are here, Katie, okay. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your service. The other portion I'd like to bring up on this is that since we do live on Cromwell Lane, we have a little problem up there that you're well aware of. I want to thank you for a quick response. I was the person that made a telephone call on the domestic violence that happened in the home and is continuing to happen on occasions. We have people that are sleeping in cars at 2 o'clock in the morning. By 5 in the morning, they're gone. We've had people driving up, beeping their horn, people running out of the house, passing off items, and leaving. That seems to be ongoing. It seems to be from out-of-state vehicles, from Indiana, from Kentucky. We're not taking pictures. We're not spying on the residents of that home. So just to make you aware, the problem is still there. The next question I would have for you, Katie, is what happened to the officer that was involved with the shooting on Peavine? Is he still on administrative leave, or has he been cleared since he did a rightful thing?
So addressing Cromwell, we understand, and just let you know, APS and county investigators are continuously monitoring that house as well to address officer-involved shooting incident. So just to kind of give you a briefing on what happens when a critical incident like that occurs with an officer involved with either a death or serious bodily injury. So TBI comes and investigates that incident. They take that file and give it to the district attorney's office. So with us, it's the 13th district general attorney's office. They review it and then they make a determination on closure of that incident or if they're going to file charges against that officer based off of that use of force. I can say last week we received a closure from the district attorney's office clearing the officer of his incident of use of force. He is back at work. He is doing administrative duties. We're with him and processing what his next steps of his career is going to be. He's doing well mentally and physically, thankfully, and we're glad to have him back. Any other questions?
Any other comments?
So you've heard me come up and make the plea as far as our website. So I want to thank Bill and the team for the change in our website. And what I would just ask you, Bill, as you're going through it, to maybe work with the team and get some member comments on usability. If for those that go out, not quite as usable as what it was before. So I just ask you to get some feedback and hopefully fine tune that. And then at the same time, and I think it's between Bill, I think it's between you and the board, can we again, I'm going to ask, can we get things updated? I don't think Bruce Cox is a board liaison anymore, but he's on a number of the committees. as a board liaison. I know it's small points department, but we want people to join committees. They look these things up, and they're, who's on the committee? So can we do that? And then I go back to the calendar. And the calendar, I'll tell you honestly, yesterday, and it's probably there, and it's probably my technology knowledge, but I just gave up. I couldn't find it. So, on the new website. So I just asked that. My second point is, and I would have posed the question to Mr. Chadwell, but Greg, I'd ask you to take and get the answer to my question, and that is, does Tennessee law require that after there is a bylaw change, that all members are notified of bylaw changes? Thank you.
Any other comments?
Real quick, Carrie Trees. Excited that we are going down the endeavor of strengthening our partnerships in our community. That's wonderful. In regards to updating the CSNRs, have we had any discussion with the county in relation to bringing back some of our tax dollars into our community, because we take care of all the maintenance and cost of our roads, yet the county owns our roads. We pay an astronomical percentage of all of the residential property taxes in Cumberland County, and we bring exceptionally little back into the county, and very little of that we do get, or what we do get of that goes to our fire department, thankfully. But I feel that as we are building out and we're developing, and they're going to continue to bring into the county more property taxes from our community, this is a great opportunity to have that discussion with our county commissioners. And I didn't get to thank Colleen Mall for being here. I know she's been working on, promoting our community and bringing resources in, but we are at a pivotal time, especially when we want to build our community out and keep money here. Our county should be giving some of that to us. So just food for thought. Don't know if that's been discussed. I'm assuming it has.
It's been an ongoing conversation with the mayor. He's well aware of what we're doing here. He's been very supportive of what we're doing here. And it doesn't go unnoticed that, if you just do some back of the envelope projections, and this is years off, but that development could make us even larger than Crossville itself.
Well,
So
we're pretty close in size already.
Yeah, he's well aware of it, and we continue to talk with it. But also, he's got a whole board he's got to deal with, too.
I understand that, but we continue to discuss fair and equitable, and I hate that word. But when we get almost nothing back from our property taxes in general, and then that's not even discussing the amount of money that goes to the county from our EMS, because we are a large percentage of that in Cumberland County. I'm not even discussing that piece of it. So just know that there's a group of residents that are becoming more aware of what we pay out of our pocket that the county is not covering. So thank you very much.
Any other comments? Board comments? What? Yeah, I was going to go through that. A couple comments from some of the conversations and things here. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I better remind myself, huh? So one thing is the roads department is separate from the mayor, okay? And that's been a little bit of a interesting conversation between the superintendent of roads and even the mayor. So that one takes a little bit different path. And, I know that the superintendent, I know Bruce, you got introduced to him, I think, not too fairly recently. But that's going to be an ongoing conversation, in all honesty, Carrie, that we're going to have to do. But the mayor has been very supportive of what we have been doing. On the bylaws, I don't know any requirement about the state, but we are required in our documents to make those things publicly available. And that's why you see books like the one we have, for the bylaws and CNRs. And we will make those public. They are out on our website. So any changes that come about will be published. And our intention would be we'd talk to the community about those at a board meeting so that they're aware of them. And Art, to your point, Arthur, we've been looking at the bylaws since really November of 2023. So it's been a long journey, and we actually got everything back from Kenneth earlier, well, I guess it was in February, and we're taking a look at all the things that we thought we'd want to change. We purposely waited until Monica and MK got on the board. We thought we had it done, but it was good form for them to come through and take a look at it along with us because they had some other ideas, which were good. It was a good conversation. So we'll be talking about that, and we will be bringing, what we think is going to be a summary of the changes so that everyone's aware of that. On the CNRs, that's a much different conversation, and those take a vote to change, just like we talked about the one here for the declarant. Any changes to the CNRs will require another vote. So I would say we're about 30% on that one. We kind of suspended talking about that until we got the bylaws done, because that's a little easier one to do. So we're continuing to look at those documentations or documents that are governing documents. So you'll be hearing more in the future. Based on how long it took the bylaws, I may or may not be around by then. But it's a careful consideration because they were never intended to be changed willy-nilly. That was not the intention of them. The intention was they should stand the test of time until time tells us we got to do something different. And I appreciate your comments because time is getting there where we need to look at some different things. So that's all I had. Is there anything else from anybody else? Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank all of you for coming. We're glad to get into the conversation with you.